Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing?
Welcome to the Dad Show podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome back to the Dad Show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank y'all for being here, for watching, and just being present with us. We got Mr. Nathan Wray in the studio today. Man, he's such an inspiration, and just he's living the Dad Show work every single day at what he's doing, and we're going to get more into that. But yes, you've got a treat for today for sure. So Nathan, I want to thank you for being here and being with us, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I know we've been trying to do it for a while, and finally was like, okay, let's nail it down.
Yep, the stars aligned and
Yeah.
the schedules aligned and everything else.
Yep.
So, man,
Yep.
I'm happy you're here, and I greatly
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
If you don't mind, take just a second, open up and let our audience know who you are and who they're listening to.
Yeah, I'm a military brat. Grew up. My dad was in the Air Force for 20 years, and we moved around all the time, and landed in Indiana at some point, and just didn't have life together.
Yeah.
Got in a lot of trouble. Got kicked out of high school 3 weeks before graduation, and
Wow.
And after that, just kind of popped around the country and moved around and tried to figure life out. And I ended up going to Phoenix, Arizona for a few years, and I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's where I met my wife, and we were both on board with, we don't go to church, we don't do that. Like Air One would, we'd scan the radio station, Air One would come on, and we'd try to change it as fast as we could,
Because you didn't want to hear any of the words.
We didn't want to hear none of it.
Wow.
We don't want nothing to do with it. And my parents raised me to, go to church and be in the Southern Baptist Church, and I just avoided it as much as I could.
Yeah.
When I became of age to avoid it, 18.
Do you feel like at that younger age, though, you believed?
No.
Not at all. You just went because your parents were making
I
you.
went because they made me.
Okay.
I think there were moments where I questioned, where I was like, maybe this is something. But, when, and we can get in this later, but, when you have some trauma as a kid, you want something to blame other than yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's the route that I took. I blamed God for all of it. And I wasn't going to have, even though I didn't really believe in God at the time, I was still blaming God. And I think that a lot of people do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so we met in Nashville, and we had our son in 2003, and we found out in 2007 that he had autism, and so that became quite the challenge.
Yes.
Trying to navigate all that, and I just actually looked at this research the other day, but 84% of married couples that have one child with autism end in divorce.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're still hoofing it, man.
How many years have you been married?
22.
22 years.
22. It was 22 in October. October 29th.
Overcome the odds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You either bond together and work through it, or you can't do it. You know.
I agree.
If you're not on the same page.
We've seen that so much with what we went through with the hospital with our kids, and I even had a firefighter that his son passed away unexpectedly, and he said those exact words. He was like, your tragedy grew you and your wife closer together. Our tragedy separated us.
Yeah.
And that's so true, man.
It's so hard, you know. I mean, whichever direction you go, it's hard. It's difficult,
Yes.
And so we had Jake, and we knew that he needed more services, and we weren't getting them where we were living at the time. And I had randomly applied for this job in Arizona, and I got it. And so we by that time we had 3 kids, and so I got it. We moved to Arizona. And then we had our last daughter in Arizona, and that was 2007. Bought a house, had cars, all that, and then the market crashed, right?
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing, right? So market crashes, so do businesses.
Yes.
And so there we were. We didn't have really anything. We didn't have a home. We didn't have cars. Everything was gone.
Wow.
We had nothing.
So from 2003, I'm going to try and
timeline it.
2003, you had your son.
Yep.
2007. So in 4-year span, you had your other kids as well.
4 kids.
4 kids total.
Yeah.
Moved to Arizona.
Yep.
2007 hits and
crash.
Bam.
Yeah.
Wow.
It all falls apart, and still not believers. So my wife's dad lived in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, and she said, we can go stay with my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I don't want to,
I completely understand.
Don't know, like I'm a man, I can handle this.
Yeah.
And we moved in with her dad and,
compromised.
yeah. Compromise. And so we moved with her dad and that was just hard, it was just tough. And he had another daughter living there and her kids and then us and our kids. And, and so
that's a lot, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I ended up getting a job at a retail store and worked my way up to a manager and then got transferred to Knoxville.
Okay.
And we got transferred to Knoxville, and this is the weirdest story. Still not believers at the time. This is 2009. We come to Knoxville. I come before the family, so I show up to work and I have a hotel room and my wife tells me one day, she goes, "Hey, I'm going to drive down and look for apartments and look for, somewhere to rent."
Yeah.
And I said, okay. She gets a flat tire at the Harriman exit. Just one more exit down the road from us. And she pulls off, she goes to the McDonald's and there's this guy there and he's like, he sees all the kids, and I think that's what I love about this county.
Yeah.
Is this guy comes over and he's like, "Hey, I see the kids. Can I fix your tire and get you something to eat?" And my wife is,
wow.
We were very prideful at the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And the guy's like, "Look, I don't have anything to do. I'm going to at least fix your tire."
Yes.
So he fixes the tire. While he's fixing the tire, his wife kind of distracts my wife and kind of moves them inside to McDonald's and they buy the kids food, and so she comes back out, tire's fixed, and the guy goes, are you traveling? I saw your license plate. Are you traveling? And she goes, "Well, my husband works in Knoxville and we're close to Nashville now and we're trying to find a place down in Knoxville." And he goes, "Well, how far left do you have to go to get to his work?" And she's like, "Oh, about another 30 minutes or so." And he said, "Would you live here in this town?" And she goes, I don't know."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, can me and my wife go show you an apartment? It's ours.
Wow.
Like we own it and we'd like to show it to you and it's big enough for your whole family." And I mean, that should have been the first sign that God was moving and working.
Yeah. But not being a non-believer, you wouldn't recognize that.
Right. No. There was just no, to me at the time, it was coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I don't believe in that anymore, but,
No.
but at the time it was like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got that apartment. We lived in it for a year and we decided, hey, we're doing okay. We need to try to get like a house with a yard for the kids and stuff. And we got a house and rented a house. And I got our store closed, the one that I managed.
Wow.
And so I had to go find a new job. And so I found a new job, thankfully. It took a little while. And we were just so far behind, we really couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
So we got evicted from that house. And we moved into another rental that was about 700 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a front door, no back door.
Wow.
And
4 kids.
4 kids.
Any dogs or cats?
We had 1 dog.
1 dog.
We had 1 dog.
How old were your kids at this time?
Let's see. By this time it's 2013. So, my son would have been in middle school and my daughters would have been in elementary school. So, 3rd grade, my two oldest daughters, 3rd grade, and my youngest probably kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So we're still struggling, and we can't pay our electric bill. And so we're trying to figure that out, trying to figure all kinds of stuff out. And we had a lady stop by our house, and she said, "Hey, I'm from the church, and this is what church I go to, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about the Lord." And I was like, "Get out."
Yeah.
Like, get out.
Look at what situation I'm in.
Yeah.
If I had a God that loved me, I would not be where I'm at.
Exactly. I didn't want to hear anything about it.
Yeah.
And I was pretty rude to her. I mean, to be honest with you, I was pretty rude to her. And she said, "Can I ask you, like, what your biggest issue is? Like, if you could overcome that one thing, what would it be?" And I just spouted off like, "Well, it'd be nice to have electricity." That's all that I said.
Yeah.
And she came back to the house later on. She went down to the Harriman Utility Board with our address and said, "I just want to pay the bill on this address."
Wow.
And they were like, "We can't tell you how much it is." And so she just guessed. We had a credit for like 3 months on our electric bill because she just guessed.
Wow.
I mean, and there was
chills,
credit there.
man.
I know. And so she came back and like, she's like, "Here's your receipt. Your electricity is paid. Please let me or my church know if you need anything else." And I was still just like, "Get out of here later. That's not going to convince me."
Yeah, exactly. Just because you shoved some money in my face and you got me.
Yep.
You got me what I asked for. I'm still not gonna.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look back on that and I think about how many people struggle to get their electric bill paid, and there I was, and like I didn't even appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted her to go.
Exactly.
I think at the time, I realize now, but at the time, I wanted her to go because I didn't want to face the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I did not want to be like, "Okay, God, you did that."
Yeah. You won.
Wasn't her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still wrestling, right?
And, man, that's so powerful because how many people are going through tough things today, or, whatever the case may be, that are like, "God, I don't need you. I can do this on my own." But yet they still struggle. It's still, and they may, all things aside, they may get through it.
Right.
Barely, for the most part.
But do you actually get through it?
Me personally, I don't believe so.
I don't think so either.
Now you may make it to what you think is the other side, but you don't win the victory. You don't win the full battle, the full war.
Nope.
And that's so powerful, man, to think about what you just said.
Yeah. I read a quote, and I put it in my presentation now, but I read it a couple of months ago, and it was, "You don't heal in isolation, you heal in community."
Amen. Yeah.
And that's what that lady was trying to do for us. She was trying to bring community to us, and we were refusing community. I mean, we sheltered because we didn't really know anybody here, and we were so worried that our kids were so young, no electricity, we barely have any food.
Yeah.
Are they going to take our kids away?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that doesn't happen. Like, if you're just struggling, they're not going to come be like, "Oh, you're struggling, we're taking your kids away." There's resources out there that will help, Wow. So anyway, so we decide one day, we're like, actually my wife woke up on a Sunday and she started getting ready at like 8 a.m. And I'm like, "Yo, it's Sunday. What are you doing?"
Lay back down.
Go back to bed.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm going to go to that church. And I was like, "Well, have fun."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, can you help me get the kids ready?" And I got defensive. My kids aren't going to church.
Yeah.
No way. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
And she said, "No, they're going to go to church, and because I'm their mom and I can make that call. Like, you don't own any of us, right? Like, you don't, it's not your call. I'm going to make the call." And I went and I put myself in our bedroom and I just sat in there until they got home. I didn't, and man, they came home and like, I never heard the kids so happy,
Wow.
Someone's gonna make me cry. And I thought, what in the world?
Yeah.
What did they do there? So the next Sunday, she's getting ready at 8:30 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going to go. I guess I'll go check it out. So we started going to church, and we still weren't saved. We didn't know the Lord. And they had their Christmas hanging of the greens or whatever that is, and we went to that. And then the next Sunday, the pastor did an altar call, and I sat down, and I was like, all right, God, like you want to fight, like you want to do this, you're going to prove to me that you're real, and you're going to do it right now. When I open my eyes, someone will be up there proclaiming you as their Lord and Savior. And if that's not being done,
I'm out.
I'm done with this. I'm not coming back. And I opened my eyes.
Wow.
And my wife was up there.
Wow. Not just somebody. Your rock.
Yeah. So then I had to explain to the pastor, like, I'm not doing this because she's doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that cliche
God,
deal. Yeah.
Like I just asked God to prove this to me, and he proved it to me.
Wow.
And that's when life really began to change. A little bit after that, that house we were living in, it caught on fire, and we were just kind of in a spot where, like, where do we go now?
Yeah.
And another church had a house that was open, and they didn't even say, like, you have to come to church here, but, you know, here's a church. And we made the decision, you know, like, I mean, we got to get back in some way,
Yeah.
you know? So we moved into that house, and life just, I mean, it began changing incredibly. And at the time we were kind of helping the youth. We weren't really doing anything major, just, you know, showing up to show up. And man, it's so weird to look back on it and see how God changed all of it, from we won't even touch Air One to that's all that we're listening to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Now you're making your kids listen to it. Yeah.
Right.
No, this is the only radio station that you.
Yeah. We're buying, like, instead of what are those CDs they sell on the radio all the time? Top Hits or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Kids Bop. Instead of Kids Bop, we're buying Christian Bop.
Yeah, exactly. 101 of God's greatest hits. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful, man.
And so when we got to the new house, I had this major back injury, and I couldn't work anymore. And I really felt like I just was not a good dad or a husband. We didn't have insurance, and so we didn't know what to do. You know, like I had a walker that I had to walk around the house in. If we went to the store, I'd have to go in a wheelchair, and I was in pain constantly.
Yeah.
And my kids would love to take that wheelchair and, like, run it into a pole and just see me, you know, roll around in pain for a minute. They loved it, you know? And I'm like, all right, if that provides entertainment to you, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. But I'm sitting at home one day, really, you know, I literally can't go anywhere without my wife getting me out to the car and taking me somewhere. And man, you want to feel like you're letting your family down.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. Like,
Yeah.
I was at a point where, you know, I just wanted to say to her, like, it's okay if you can't do this anymore.
Wow.
Like, that's okay. And so she's working, I'm not working, you know, the kids are going to school, and I had a telemarketer call me one day, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you about insurance. And literally I was answering the phone just to have communication with people.
Wow.
You know? And I said, dude, we can't buy insurance. We can't afford it. And he goes, tell me what's going on. And I told him everything. Like, the poor guy, he's probably like on this minute thing. Like, you got to sell this stuff within minutes or get off the phone, you know?
Didn't meet his quota that day.
But he said, like, I told him everything, and he said, hey, this sounds weird, but can I call you back when I get off of work? And I was like, yeah, I don't care, man. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, sure, you're going to call me back. Yeah, right. Well, he called me back at like 8:00 that night. And the first thing he said to me was, hey, can I pray for you really quick? And I was like, yeah, I would love that. He prayed for me and he said, I'm going to tell you how to get insurance. You're not going to have to pay for it. So he gives me this whole system on how to get 10 care. We didn't know anything about 10 care.
Yeah.
So I go through it, figure it out, and within 6 weeks I'm having surgery. Had my surgery and looking for a job. Can't find anything. So I called a friend one day. I applied at a Ford dealership. Is when I was running around like a crazy kid. I would sell cars.
Yeah.
And so I applied at a Ford dealership and I called a friend at church and I said, can I use you as a reference? Didn't call me back. And I thought, well, I guess we're not friends, are we?
Yeah.
You know, like a week went by.
Wow.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. And the week went by and she called me and I didn't want to answer. You know, I wanted to be like, forget you. You can't call me now.
I'll be the bigger.
Yeah. And I answered and immediately she was like, Nathan, we've been on vacation. I shut my phone off on vacation. I don't respond to messages. That's my time.
Wow.
Sorry I missed this call. Did you get the job? And I said, no, I didn't get the job. Yeah. You know, like I was looking for references. I didn't really have anybody. And she said, well, there's another job that I think you'd be really great at. I've seen you work with the youth. It's kind of working with youth in the county, and I'm going to make some calls. And that was 7 years ago. And I started my job as a prevention coordinator for the Roane County Anti-Drug Coalition.
Wow.
And that went a whole 7 years working with students in Roane County. And that job just ended. And now I'm off doing my own thing now, working with students all over the country. But that's the short version. And I know it was long, but that's the short version of kind of how we got here,
where you are today.
Yeah.
Man, it's so powerful to look back and see God connecting all those dots.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think about the whole thing of, you know, you just like you think it's coincidence, but now that you look back and see how, and I put that into our story of, you know, you're asking God to move here, you're asking God to move there, and you don't see it. But whenever you get to this side of it and you say, okay, God, thank you for not moving at that point. Thank you for doing this instead of what I asked. And my pastor said something the other day, said, you don't think God answers your prayers, but he does in 3 ways, either yes, no, or not right now.
Yep.
And, you know, but you think just because it didn't happen, you think that he didn't answer your prayer.
Yeah.
But his plan, his story, his ultimate goal for you is far better than we can even imagine.
Right.
And, you know, like just what you said, like you were going to be the bigger person and sit down in that pew and tell God, if you want me to move, you're going to put somebody up there to show me that you're real.
Yeah.
Praising you.
Yep.
And God's like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And put your wife up there, one that you would never thought that you would open your eyes and see it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, that's so powerful to see all those dots connected. And like you said, for the non-believer, thinking that it's a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
It's not.
You know what's weird is, and I've thought about this too, is I have to wonder sometimes, God's intention was for her to go to that altar anyways, whether or not I said, prove it to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes I think like the audacity that I had to sit in a pew and go, you prove it to me.
Yeah.
I have life, right? You've given me children. Somehow we have a house. Somehow I have a job. I have a high school education. I don't have any degrees or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you're still providing for me. And even if we had nothing, you're providing for me. Like, how dare I sit in that chair? But on the flip side of that, I mean, when I look back at the fire it's weird to thank God for the fire.
Yeah.
Because without that fire, we wouldn't have moved to the new house. We wouldn't have met the friend who helped me get on this road
Exactly.
to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the things that I missed is our middle daughter, Ariana, diagnosed with autism. Our youngest daughter, Summer, she almost passed away in 2018. We didn't know she was type 1 diabetic.
Wow.
Like, we almost lost her.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible because, you know, in 2018 we get rushed down to Children's Hospital. She's in an ambulance. We're driving behind. We get into the hospital and they're doing all their stuff, and we get up to ICU, and the doctor comes in and they're like, "Hey, we're not telling you we can't help her, but we're just telling you, try to be prepared for anything."
Wow.
And our response was prayer. And it was, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you got it. You have it figured out. We're not going to try to take control. We're not gonna be emotional in your response, in your decision. It's whatever you want to do. And man, that was a tough time.
Yeah.
And so,
Because basically you're taking control off of you and handing it fully to him, giving it to him.
yeah. And it's like, you don't go to the doctors and you're like, what else can you do? You know, you're just, you know, God, the doctors can do what they can do, but you can do what you can do.
Amen. Yeah.
And whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And we were literally at the point where we were praying, the third day that she was in a coma, we were praying, God, if you just want to take her, take her. She belongs to you,
Yes.
not us. That night around 11:30, she woke up, and she was like, "I'm hungry," you know.
Wow.
And my son watches all these videos and all this stuff. He's sitting in the room, and she goes, "I'm hungry," and he goes, "Hungry for the Lord." It's like, what is that? And I know it's a Michael Jr. reference. I don't know. Do you know the comedian Michael Jr.?
I don't.
Christian comedian.
Okay.
Right. And so he has this bit where he's like, you ever met someone who's like overly Christian, you know, and someone will say like, man, I'm hungry. And they're like, yeah, hungry for the Lord, you know, or something. He has
Yeah,
other
exactly,
examples,
yeah.
you know, and that's where he got it from, you know, and it just broke the silence and the stress.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
with the humor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all cracking up, and our poor daughter's like, I don't even know what's happening. Like, can somebody tell me?
I've just been asleep and I'm hungry. That's
Yeah. I've been asleep for 3 days. And now I'm hungry, which this just popped into my head, but I wonder how hungry Lazarus was.
Oh man. Wow.
Right? Like when he
Yeah.
walked out of the tomb, you
Yeah.
know, and I know she didn't pass away, but still, like, you're down for 3 days.
Yeah.
How hungry are you when you
exactly. Because
come out
what,
of the
you can only
tomb?
go like 72 hours or something without food, like, you know what I
about
mean?
it.
And I know they
Yeah.
were giving her nutrients.
Right,
There's,
yeah.
you know, I'm not saying that, but
Sorry, folks. She can't eat anything.
at all.
Yeah. So, you know, life's been a battle, but what I realize is that, you know, God knew that me being a military brat would prepare me for adversity, because it does. I mean, you move a bunch of times in 1 year, you've got to figure out how to connect with people. You got to figure out how to, you know, deal with the unknown, the uncertainty of things. Like, you have to learn how to navigate life.
Yes.
And where you're going to live, you know, and wonder, okay, when is it going to happen again? When are we moving again? And I think, I know that God prepared me for all of this through that. And here we are today. You know, I had resigned from the coalition back in October, and it was one of the scariest things I had done, because there's no job.
Yeah.
You know, like, job. It's just on you.
You
It's
alone.
on you.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, God hasn't skipped a beat.
Well, you look back, and even though you weren't believing in God, all the adversity you faced without him was building you up
Yeah.
for where you are today.
Yeah.
He's showing in the background, like, I'm going to put this adversity on you and you're not going to believe. Like, I know that where your mindset is right now.
Yep.
But I'm building you up stronger. So whenever you do finally accept me, we're going to be even more powerful together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly the truth. And, I look back at every time I lost a job, every time me and my wife had an argument, every time something happened with the kids or another doctor walked in and they're like, here's what's wrong, and it's like all of that, it's like God was just taking me to the spiritual gym.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was just heavy lifting. And the thing that if I could go back and change, like, I wouldn't try to do the lifting myself.
Yes.
I would just surrender.
Yeah.
And be like, I can't lift this. You lift it.
That's my biggest, I'm not going to say testimony, but that was a big game changer in my journey with my daughter. And it's just 100% what you said while you all were in the hospital. And I've told this story on multiple podcasts, so I'm going to try to go through it as quick as I can. But
I haven't heard it, though. I want to hear it.
Okay. So, all right, I'll tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
So I was, before my daughter was born, Allie and I were church hopping. We were trying, God was putting the fire on us to really, or fire under us to really start rolling for him. And so we were church hopping, trying to find our home. We finally found our home. We got involved with the church. We, became members, rededicated our lives to the Lord, got baptized, and we had our daughter.
Yeah.
And then we were hit with the adversity of her rare genetic disease diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd come close with a guy at work that was a real good Christian man, good solid rock, knew the word, backwards, forwards, and he seen where I was struggling. And he said, Ryan, I know you're trying to live your life for the Lord. And I was like a brand new baby deer trying to walk. That was my walk with the
remember
Lord,
that.
stumbling.
Yep.
And he said, I just want you to know there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to pray. You're not going to be able to think of a prayer. You're not going to be able to do anything. But just know that God understands your tears. And I said, dude, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how hard I'm crying, I can always say a prayer in the back of my head. And he said, God understands your tears. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
So I went on. A couple weeks later, dude, it hit me. I was weeping. I was at home. I was by myself. Nobody else was there. And I was weeping so hard because I was thinking about my daughter and just everything she was going to have to go through. And I couldn't. The only thing I could do was hit my knees and throw my hands up to God.
Yeah.
And when I done that, because I was weeping so hard, I couldn't even think of a prayer.
You can't.
And that was all I could do was throw my hands up. And when I threw my hands up, it was literally like he came down, he picked it up and took it off of me. And I was able to stand up and look exactly other than wiping my eyes of tears and, blowing my nose. Like
right.
I could continue on my day. And so right after that happened, I took the motion and how cheesy or cliche, whatever you want to say, but it's the same thing you said in the hospital. I made the motion and said, God, you take her. And I handed her to him in a motion and said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't. You're her ultimate father. I'm just her earthly father.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's yours first. And, and I made that motion. And when somebody's going through adversity and they call, a lot of people reach out with diagnosis of kids like, Ryan, how did you make it through it? And how did you do this? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you all the things we done with doctors, hospitals, yada, yada. But the main thing that was so powerful for me, and like I said, how cheesy it is, hand your child or hand your problem. It doesn't even have to be a medical diagnosis.
Right.
Like your house catching on fire,
right.
you're losing your job, your electricity being shut off, whatever your issue is. I promise, I can't say this strong enough. If you hand it to him, he will handle it. and you don't have to move. Just like the lady showing up at your house and you're like, I just want electricity.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have some electricity.
And then, bam.
Yeah.
Your light bill's paid for 3 months.
And what, like, you think about coincidence, right? Like, so what are the odds that God sends not just someone to come knock on your door and share the gospel, but someone who can afford to hear that and then afford to go down and put such a large amount of money on your account that you have a credit for the next 3 months?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a coincidence.
No.
God sent exactly
the correct
who he
person.
intended to send. And that's one of the things when I was toying with this idea of, should I do this on my own? Should I go to schools and go to conferences and try to make this business of it? I was talking to my wife and I said, and it's so funny because I sat her down like I was going to tell her bad news, like I got a diagnosis, I'm like, hey, you need to sit down for a minute. And she's like, what is going on? And I said, I think I'm going to make the leap and start this business, but I don't know. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, me and you both know that God's going to send who he needs to send.
Wow. And
she said, and I've really been praying about that for a year. Like, it's time. It's time for you, because there were things in place where, like, it was trending that way. It was leading that way.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being obedient. I was hanging on.
Yeah.
To something I should have let go of.
Yeah.
A while ago. And I just, when she said that, I was like, all right. And I went and I typed up my resignation, and I'm going to tell you, like, my hands were shaking.
Wow.
Because I'd been the provider in our house for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
And my hands are shaking, and I'm like, I don't know, but I trust you. I know it doesn't look like I trust you, but I trust you.
Yeah.
And I'm praying that the whole time, and I turn in my resignation, and as soon as those 2 weeks are up, there's business. Like, a lot of it.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I know how hard it is. I talk with other speakers. I'm in different groups with other speakers. I know how hard it's been for them to, like, get off the ground and be well known and a lot of them had told me, like, hey, you're going to make this leap. It's going to be like 7 years before you're busy. So you're going to have to find other things to do.
Yeah.
It hasn't been 7 years.
Wow.
And it's just
been 2 weeks.
It's been a little bit longer than that.
I know
now,
you've been doing it longer,
yeah,
but you had business 2 weeks already
into it.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because we have, so I do the speaking, but I also do other things and that, like, go along with that.
Yeah.
Trainings and stuff like that. And so, like, if an organization wants me to train somebody, I'll go do that. But we just signed a pretty big contract that will keep me busy doing trainings if there's no schools, and there's another national organization that I got off the phone with last night, and it's looking pretty good, and I'm just like, all glory to God.
Amen. Yes.
Like, how often does this happen for someone?
Yes.
And when you look back at the adversity, the traumas, the hard things, I know that our rewards are in heaven. I absolutely know that, and we're not doing anything on this earth to receive rewards. But I do think God blesses us in our obedience. I do believe that He blesses us in our obedience. He hears us when we cry, and He does not ignore us.
Yes.
And I think that's just the season that we're in. Will we always be in this season? I don't know.
Well, there's just because you believe in God, you trust God, and you have full faith in Him and let Him guide every step of the way, doesn't mean you're not going to have struggles.
That's right.
Doesn't mean you're not going to have a hard.
That's right.
You're still going to have those. Yeah. But when you cling to Him through those struggles, man, you get through them so much easier. And it's not easy by any means. It's still hard. I won't our people that don't believe in God that's listening to this, just because you turn to God doesn't mean your life's going to be all fairy tales and unicorns.
No.
Like it's still hard. You're still going to have adversities. You're still going to have deaths. You're still going to have medical diagnosis. You're still et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But man, like, cling to him. Like, it's going to be, he's going to guide you. He puts you in this situation. It's not a coincidence. He puts you in it for a reason.
Yep.
I promise you, he'll bring you out of it for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I mean, it's funny because, you know, you're saying like, you're still going to have this. So, I mean, I still have kids that have autism.
Amen. Yeah.
And it's never going to like, that's always going to be a thing.
Yes.
You know, and I still have a daughter that has type 1 diabetes, and that's always going to be one of those things that we deal with and we struggle with and that we also thank God for.
Yeah.
You know, and there are days that just aren't easy. They're hard and they're difficult. And there's times where, you know, it's so funny because as much as we say like, I'm going to hand it to the Lord, there's moments in our day where we're like, oh, I'm so stressed out. I don't know what to do, you know, and he's having a meltdown. She's having a meltdown. Her blood sugar's low, you know, like I haven't eaten today, you know, and and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, all right, hold on a second, you know.
I thought we were giving it to the Lord.
Yeah. And I'm not even communicating with him at this point, you know? And then you got to stop and just be like, all right, give me like 3 minutes. We'll handle all of this, you know? And I say 3 minutes, but it usually turns into longer than that.
Yeah.
You know, because you're praying specifically for things and you think, well, he's probably going and praying for himself. And I'm not. Like, I'm praying that God will give my son the emotional regulation that he needs. Yeah. You know, praying that he gives my daughter the calmness that she's seeking. Yes. You know, and like you pray for others, and that's what I've been doing, and I don't know, there's always the struggle, I guess, if that's the word, but it is like when you have a relationship with God, it's so much, I don't know, manageable. I won't say easier. Yeah. Because it's not easier. Yeah. It's manageable.
Well, walking through anything, regardless if it's climbing a mountain, driving a car,
right?
You know, anything. It's easier if you have somebody there to walk through it with you. So when you have God, you always have. Well, regardless, let me back up and check that. You've always got God. Yep. Regardless if you believe in him or not, he is there with you.
He's there.
But when you know he's there with you and you recognize that, you always feel like you have somebody walking through it with you, no matter what. And that's it makes everything so much, like you said, manageable. I'm not going to say easier. But yeah.
Because I mean, we live in this, I don't know, I feel like we live in a society where we just want it to be easy. And if it's not easy, then
give up.
Yeah. You know? And I'm telling you, it's not, nothing's easy.
Yeah.
Nothing's easy. But man, God is loving and he's full of grace and mercy. And man, I'm telling you, when you receive that, golly, it changes your life. Changes your life.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So I want to transition a little bit.
Okay.
We've gave little bits and pieces.
Yep.
And your career now is going out and like I told you all earlier, he's doing exactly what the Dad Show's goal is every single day. Yeah. And so Nathan is going out to these schools. He's, regardless if it's at a school or just out in the public, you're witnessing to the youth, and you are being that male figure, that role model, that in their life to witness to them, to be a quote unquote father, a dad. You know, even though these kids aren't yours.
Nope.
But you know that's the whole meaning of the Dad Show is yes, to become a better husband, a better father, but to be that male role model in the house or in their lives that I believe our society needs. And I believe that's a huge issue with our society is that you don't have that, like I said, quote unquote father figure. So just give everyone a little bit about your new business, which I'm excited to hear about, and what's going on.
Yeah. So I've always, for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so, I've shared my story of, using drugs very early in life. 12 years old is when I started. And so I talk about my life when I speak to kids, and I use an acronym. I was a mechanical brave. That was my high school. And I even shared the story of not making it, getting across that stage and how important it is to graduate. But I use BRAVE as an acronym, and it's to be bold, to be resilient, to be accountable, to be vulnerable, and then to empower other people.
Wow.
And so I've been doing that at schools all over, and it's incredible to see the amount of kids that are struggling, but it's even cooler. I tell this to people all the time. I've not been to a single school when I'm done with my speech and I ask if the students have any questions. I've not been to a single school where a student doesn't raise their hand. I don't mention my faith at all in my speech. Not a single school where a student doesn't raise their hand and say, "Do you believe in Jesus?"
Wow.
In a public school setting, that opens the door for me.
Yes.
To now share the gospel.
Yes.
You give me 5 minutes and I'm going to share the gospel with you, and I'm going to share it with everyone in that gym or that auditorium, whatever it is. But I let them open the door. I say I let them open the door. It's so funny, but God opens that door through them.
Yeah.
But it happens. It's happened at every single school so far that I've been to. Even this morning, it happened at Norwood, and so I get to go to these different schools and share my story, talk about being brave and resilient, talk about the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and then I give schools the option. They can do workshops. So I can do some workshops in the classrooms after the assembly, or they can just do a one and done assembly. It's up to them, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And so, there's those things, and then I have the training portion where I contract out to organizations, and I will train their customers with their product, and it's just been like on the fly. But I will tell you too, as the school speaking is where I'm at. Like, I know that's where God wants me to be, because I see it every single day. We don't have an epidemic of drugs in our schools. We have an epidemic of loneliness.
Wow. And
I hear it every day. I see it every day. And I talk about it every single day. Last week, I was at school last week, and a student came up to me after the assembly and said, "Thank you for being here. This really helped me. I had a plan today for after school to go home and just die."
Wow.
And I asked him, so what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what's got you to this point?
Yeah.
New to the school, nobody talked with him, and if they did, it was negative. Ate lunch alone, didn't have any friends, missed his friends from his old school, and didn't have contact with them because he's in foster care and they won't let him have a phone, and which I think is smart. If you have toddlers right now, like, don't give them a phone until they're 18.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I connected with a school counselor and said, "Hey, this is what's going on," and I had 2 more assemblies to do that day, and so I told myself, "I'll check on you before I leave," and this is why I love my wife, that she helps me do everything. But we were getting ready to leave, had everything wrapped up, and I was out the door, and my wife said, "Don't forget, you got to check on him."
Wow.
I went, "Oh yeah, okay." So I went to the office and I asked if he could come up, and man, I'm telling you, smiling from ear to ear,
Really?
huge grin on his face, and I go, "Hey, how's the rest of your day been?" And he goes, "I ate lunch with somebody today, and now I have a friend."
Wow.
And to just help them connect
Yeah.
like that. I mean, and I look back at, as a military brat, I could walk into a school and be like, oh yeah, you're wearing a Cardinals shirt. I like baseball.
Yeah.
You know, where do you play?
Yeah.
You know, like I could connect real easily. I learned how to do that. And so God's using that to help me connect kids with other kids. And it is that connection issue.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to them, they're just lonely. And I said the other day, we live in a world right now where we are the most connected, disconnected society that's ever lived on this earth.
Yes, I agree.
Our kids are in their phones, but it's not a real, true connection.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And so that's what I've been doing. And I will tell you, I've been recording myself for like Instagram and TikTok and stuff for content.
Exactly.
And it feels so weird. But I can pull up a clip on my phone. I could do it right now and let you listen to a conversation that I just had at Norwood, and you'd be like, no way. No way.
Wow.
They're not in that mindset.
Yeah.
Seriously? I mean, it's an epidemic of loneliness.
And I don't mean to cut you
No,
off
you're good.
or interrupt you, but I feel like one of the biggest things that I try to preach, and dude, I am so bad at it, but I try so hard. But when I get home, is I try to shut my phone off and put it to the side. And I'm not going to say I turn it off, because there's always that emergency call, but I try to put it somewhere where I don't hear it ring, where I, like, just, even if it's out of the picture, like in another room, and be present with my kids, be present with my wife. And, you speak about these kids, and that's where you want the truth about something, talk to a kid.
Yep. They'll give it to you.
Adults are going to shy away from it. They're not going to be harsh to you. They're not going to tell you the truth. Talk to kids, because they'll tell you the truth. And so 100%, like you said, loneliness.
Yep.
They may have a mother. They may have a father. They may have brother and sisters in the homes. They may even have a mother-in-law, or, maybe living with another family.
Right.
But because people are so in their devices, they're so in a TV, they're so distracted. Like you said, we're so connected but disconnected. We're lonely.
Yeah.
And the kids are showing it. It's proven every day through the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that these kids are letting us know that they need more. And so that's one thing that I try to do is, even if I have a text message or a phone call or an email, whatever it may be, that I'm on my phone and I need to, like, for what we do, I may need to answer that.
Right.
But I literally try to either say, pull away from the phone and give them my full face, my full attention. Like, hang on just a second. I need to finish this. I'll be with you. Promise. And I'll do that, put the phone away, and okay. Now, instead of, they're coming up talking, okay, all right, I'll get to you, no. Put it away and give them your full attention.
Yeah. And I will tell you that when I talk to kids, they talk about their guardians or their parents being mad at them for being on devices. They're just as upset with their guardians for being on devices.
Yes.
They're over it. And one of the ways that they deal with it is they go back to their devices. Yeah. And there's research now that shows us that 74% of the kids that vape, they own a vape device. They don't borrow it, they own it. But about 72% of them that were surveyed in this study that owned vape devices borrowed vape devices, which tells us they're seeking connection. Yes, yeah. Even though they own one, they're going to go use one with somebody else because they need that connection. Yes. They're desiring that connection. They want it. Yeah. And they're not getting it. And we're in this world of technology now, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere we go. I mean, you can get Wi-Fi just about anywhere, and they have it. And a lot of times, I know that my dad, when I'd be home from school or something, he'd put me in front of the TV, right? Like, go over there. You got ADHD. You go over there and you just watch that TV for a while. Yeah. But even that's different, because at some point you get up and you go outside.
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and you'd go hang out with your friends. You go run around the block or whatever. And now today, it just doesn't work like that.
Well, we
you
had to
know?
go outside or go in the neighborhood to get that connection
Yep.
with our peers.
Yep.
Now they can put on a headset and you
Yep.
know they can play their video game. They can play the basketball game. You know, like you don't have to go outside.
Right.
But the vitamin D and just what you gain from being outside and nature and everything else and the fresh air and man, like invaluable.
And they're not getting it.
Yes.
And it's not. There's some that do, you know, but I would say there's a lot of issues that are just barriers to them getting those things. You know, maybe mom and dad are divorced.
Yes.
Maybe they live with grandparents because their mom and dad passed away from an overdose. The amount of kids that live with their grandparents today is
astronomical. Yes.
I mean, it's huge. And, you know, I love my kids and they know that I love them. And, it's the other night, my wife came home, had a long day, and my youngest daughter was like, hey, what are you doing? You know? And she's like, I'm not taking you anywhere. You know, like I just got home. I'm not taking you anywhere. And I saw that as my opportunity to go, hey, let's go. Like, where you want to go, let's go. And we just hung out and we just talked. And one of the questions that I always tell guardians, parents that they should ask, first of all, open-ended questions. You need to be asking your kids open-ended questions, not just how was school, but more like something like, what was something that happened at school today that made you happy?
Wow.
What was something that happened at school today that made you sad?
That's so good.
Because it gives you some insight into their emotions, but it also allows you to kind of help them manage those emotions.
Yeah. I'm so good about asking my kids how their day was at school. I haven't thought about those those questions like that. That's good.
The only reason I even know that is because what I've been doing for the past 7 years, you know, like, but I thought about like how a car salesman is going to ask you open-ended questions. And why do they do that? They want to know what drives you emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, and
Exactly.
if we care about our children's emotions, we need to know what drives them emotionally.
Yes,
you know?
I agree. Yeah.
And so, I say this to parents, guardians all the time. One of the questions that you should be asking is there anything I could be doing better or different? And just let them answer. Give them time, give them space to answer, but be in the right frame of mind where you can deal with the answers.
Wow.
Because as a guardian, as a parent, we don't have it all together.
No.
We
You're
don't.
learning every day.
You're learning every day.
Yeah.
And if there's something that we're not doing right, or we're doing something to where it's causing them stress, and we can fix it.
Yes.
We need to give them the opportunity and the space to say, hey, remember the other day when you came home and you were mad that you had told me to do the dishes and they weren't done, but you know, you didn't even ask me like what happened at school today, or you know, what made me sad at school today.
Yes.
And I've been bullied all day.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but you know, if you come home and you don't see the dishes done and that's my chore, can you check in with me first before you kind of go off the handle? That, I'd rather my kids tell me that.
Yes.
Than I come in and be like, why aren't these dishes done? Like, that's your chore. I told you to do that. And then they're like, because I don't want to do the dishes, you know? And then you're in this divide and you have division in your house.
Yes.
And man, I'm telling you, if you just ask open-ended questions, you will dive into this world with your kids that you did not know existed.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They'll tell you. They will tell you. You just have to be invested and interested.
Yes.
They'll tell you.
Be present.
Be present.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the right word.
We invest in so many other things that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That, like you said, we need to invest and be present with our kids in that way.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's so huge.
My youngest daughter she's homeschooled because, you know, her blood sugar issues, and they would send her home a lot. And so we decided to homeschool her. And at first she was very resistant to that. And now she's like on board. She's all over it. But I'm going to a school on Friday, and it's a ways away. And she asked me on Monday. She said, "Hey, I don't have to work on Friday. can I go with you? Like, can I help you like set up and carry everything in? And I said, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that she feels comfortable enough. Like, 'cause how many families is it okay to walk in and be like, hey, can I go with you? Or,
Yeah.
you know, and thankfully I have this job to where, you know, every day is take your kid to work day.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You can do it if you want to.
Yeah.
And so like that'll be our opportunity to drive 4 hours and just have conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, what do you love about living in our home? What do you love about whatever it is, like, what do you love about your job?
Yeah.
What do you not like about your job?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and you just dive into what they're going through. And if you listen, like actively listen,
Yes.
like we're doing, these conversations happen.
Yeah.
You know, and
Exactly.
and it's you just open up this whole new world with your kids. But I'm telling you, if you come home and you've had a long day and you get on your phone because you want to de-stress, or you turn on your favorite show, or you got the game on and you're like, don't bother me, I got the game on. Your kids are going to know
Yes.
you're not to be bothered at any point, and they're going to start looking for other
Avenues
to connect.
Yep.
And it's not a spot you want to be in with your kids.
Brandon Janis was on the podcast last week, and he hit the nail on the head. Our kids want to be us. They want to do what we're doing.
Yep.
So if we're outside smoking, if we're outside vaping, if we're always on our phone, if we're always buried in a TV, in substance abuse, whatever, our kids want to mimic and do, for the most part, what us as parents are doing. So they're going to do it. And it's exactly what you just said a few minutes ago about that connection. They want a connection with us.
Yeah.
They don't want to text us from their bedrooms. They may want to, but they don't really want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't.
Yep.
They need this face-to-face, this conversation, the parents showing up and saying, we care about you. Like, I want to listen to you. I want to know what's going on in your life. I want to know what makes you happy. I want to know what makes you sad. I want to know what I can change to be a better father to you.
Yeah.
Like, what makes you feel loved? What makes you feel like, and I think about this the other day, and it was a failure, but it was a perfect point for me to be able to give Lincoln. Like, he came out of school and he's like, Dad, I said the pledge today on intercom. Are you proud of me? And I was like, son, I'm proud of you. I don't care if you do the pledge.
Yeah.
I don't care if you go rob a bank. I am proud of you.
Yeah.
No matter what. Now, you can do stuff to make me happy. You can do stuff to make me sad or mad or, disappointed, whatever. I want you to know 100% all the time, I am proud of you. There's nothing you can do to make me more proud of you. There's nothing you can do to make me less proud of you. And kids need to hear that, man.
Oh, they do. And it's so funny because I say that at schools as they're leaving. So as they're leaving the auditorium of the gym, I fist bump, I high five, and they have this thing now where it's dap me up, like dap me. So I do that with them. But every time I do one of those things with them, I look at them and I go, I'm proud of you. And you know what's different is they get this look on their face like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why are you proud of me?
Like, what did I do to deserve that?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we've built this society that for kids to think that you have to do something for someone to be proud of you.
Yeah.
They have so much value and worth. And that's why I'm proud of them.
Yes.
Because whatever they're walking through, they're still here, they're still fighting, they're still going through it. They're still trying to manage it, whether they vape or drink or use tea, whatever it is, they're still here.
Yes.
And I'm proud of them for that.
Yeah.
And it's eye-opening to say I'm proud of you, and them just kind of be like, what? And then they'll like turn around and look at their friend and they're like, it's your turn now. Like, you got to go through the awkward moment now, you know? And I do it again, you know? And they're just kind of like, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
But I know that there are kids that sit in those bleachers and those auditoriums that they get up, they get dressed, they come to school, they get dropped off, or they get off the bus, they walk in the school, and by the time they walk in the doors to their classroom, they have not heard "I love you" one time.
Yeah.
Not once. I know those kids exist, and they're in our schools today, and I want to make sure. I know that God has sent me to make sure that they feel loved and valued.
Well, how validating is it, man, that you don't speak one part of the gospel through your whole speech, and every single time Jesus' name comes up? You know, like, I mean, how much more validating can it be? That's not a coincidence.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
not a coincidence.
So you're 100% doing God's work. And man, it breaks my heart to think about those kids that are in the homes that the only break that they get from being beat, sexually abused, whatever the case may be, verbally abused, is at school.
At school.
And they want to come, like, you know, like I remember being young and we had a snow day. I would be so excited.
Oh, I know.
I didn't have to go to school. Thank you, God, for all the snow outside, so I don't have to go to school. But then those kids look out their window and they see the snow. Yeah. And they just start like, oh, no. Yeah. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I can't. And that's the only break they get is when they come to school. That just breaks my heart, man.
I asked kids this morning, I said, what brings you joy? What makes you joyful? And I heard, you know, like family and my dog, and one kid said Jersey Mike's, and I was like, yeah, me too. Yeah. But I got to one student and she said school, and I was just like, I have to wonder why. You know, maybe it's just because she loves school, maybe it's whatever, but I know that there are kids, they get to eat at school, you know? Yeah. And I mean, it's just, they're going through some things that we could never even imagine. And you'd said something earlier about how they want to do what we do, right? Yeah. And it's that nature and nurture portion. So we can pass down our addictions and through nature, right? Through DNA. Yeah. But we can also nurture them into negative behaviors as parents, or as guardians. We can nurture them into smoking. We can nurture them into not having anger management. Yeah. You know, we can nurture them into those things, and then now we have chaos in the home because we're both like that. And I don't know if you've ever lived with anybody that's like you, but do we really like ourselves?
My son is that boy wants to test me every second of every day.
But he's just like you,
exactly.
You know, and that's like, why, you know? Yeah. But when you have that, it can be chaotic, especially if it's, you know, emotional, if it's drugs or alcohol or, you know, dysregulated emotions and stuff like that. It's chaotic. And then they're, you know, I'd rather not be here in this home. And sometimes you would feel that way. Like,
exactly.
I'm not going to go home to my family because it's all chaos.
Yes.
And I don't want to be there, you know? And I'll just like bring it all full circle. If you turn your life and hand it over to God and go, God, my anger, I can't handle it. You can.
Yes.
God, my addictions, I can't handle them. You can.
Yeah.
My marriage is out of control. Take it.
Yes.
You know, you do that. And again, we're not saying it's going to be sunshine and roses.
Yes.
But man, you're going to start to see the blessings in it, and you're going to think differently.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but when I hand things over to God, I start to think differently. And it's in more of a positive way.
Yes, yeah.
I can be a negative thinker.
Yeah.
But when I like, okay, God, I don't know about, you know, what's going to happen with this issue. You handle it. And then sometimes the thought will pop up and it'll remind you, like, remember, you don't have that handled.
Yeah.
And then your thought process is, yeah, but God does. And I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to dwell on it. I don't have to be anxious about it. Like, it's his.
Yes.
And it's not mine. Whatever he decides, he decides.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with it.
But it's easy to say that.
It is.
It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. But once you do it, and this is one thing I tried to keep myself on that track, something simple as my son giggling. Thank you, Jesus, for him giggling. You know,
Yep.
thank you for his joy. Like every little bit to help me continue to let him control it
Yeah.
is thank you for this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Being grateful, you know,
Yeah.
showing that and acknowledging that's because of you. That's not because of anything
Right.
I did. That's because of you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that helps keep me on track of continuing to give it to him to know, yes, you've
Yeah.
got it. You're continuing to take care of it.
Yeah. My like kind of adding into that, my kids snore. They all snore. I can't sleep when people snore. And we always, you know, in that little house that caught on fire, I mean, you could hear everything in that house, you know. And they would snore and I'd be up all night. We had our fire and the Red Cross took us to a hotel and I was up, like my adrenaline's going, I'm up, everybody else goes back to sleep and I hear my kid snoring. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus,
Yes.
that I get to hear that sweet,
Wow.
sweet, awful noise
Yeah.
that's coming out of their throat
Yeah.
and their nose, you know, but I was just so thankful for it.
Yes.
And that mindset of the things that can annoy us, there are things that can happen in our lives to where we appreciate it more than anything in the world. And yeah,
well, think about all the
something.
adversity that you went through, all the hard that you went through in your life. And now that where you are today, you're thanking Jesus for every single bit of it.
Yeah.
Because it made you the man, the husband, the father, the witness to all these youth and the speaker that you are today.
Yeah.
Like without all that, you're not.
No. Yeah. And I hate to even use the word, but like just a normal guy probably, you know, and it doesn't mean I wouldn't go to church and, you know, live the 9 to 5 or work in a factory or whatever. But, you know, I'm who I am today because God knew the plans that he had for me before I was ever in the womb.
Yes.
And he knew the adversity that I would go through.
Yeah.
And he made me, like he made me. and I'm where I'm at today because of all of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking earlier when you said like how hard it is to hand your kids over to him. If you think about that he made us and he knew us before we were ever in the womb, how hard is it for him
Exactly.
to let us
Wow, I've never thought
come
of it
into
that
this
way.
earth and deal with all the things that we have to deal with. And he's just giving us the free will to trust him.
Yes.
And to love him and to glorify him and to praise him.
That's powerful, man, to think about. Like, wow.
I know.
Because, you know, it's so hard whenever my wife and I have to make a decision of whether my daughter needs this or our daughter, not my daughter. My wife would kill me if she heard me say that, but she is a daddy's girl. I wouldn't have to say that.
Edit it out.
But, yeah, when we make a decision on our daughter, like it is so hard for us to know. And I mean, back to me weeping so hard that I couldn't even think of a prayer because I knew what my daughter was going to have to go through. And my wife and I made the decision to go through that. And what you just said is so powerful, man, to think that God knows how this world is. God knows how deceiving and terrible and conniving the devil is. For him to like, I'm making this child to put into that.
Yeah.
I'm sending them in to the fire.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never thought of it that way. That's powerful.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like he knows this world and he knows that Satan has roamed it. I mean, from the very moment he put Adam and Eve on this earth, the devil was in there, you know, trying to convince them that God didn't matter.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it today. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it through social media. We're seeing it through TV. We're seeing it through all this other stuff. And yet God still continues to say, I'm going to let you go have free will. I love you. I created you. I know you.
Yes.
And now you have the free will to go and choose me or not. how hard is that for a father to do?
Yeah.
How, like, I think about me just like taking Jake outside and going, hey, there's the world. You've got 3 months.
Yeah.
Go test it out. Choose it or choose me. If it works out for you, great. If it don't, whatever.
Yeah. I couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it either.
No.
I couldn't do it either.
I don't even know that I'll be able to do it when my kids are of age, adults, to be able to go out and,
He's 21.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I mean, still though, like you're just God's letting us figure this out.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm here. Don't forget your Father is here.
Yeah.
But if you do, I still love you and I'll receive you when you remember. It's the prodigal son.
Yeah.
That's true. Give me my riches now.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I can't make it. I'm going back home to Dad. And Dad's like, yeah, been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Where you been? Got a meal inside.
Yeah.
And that's what God has done with me. And I see it I see it every day, just running from him and choosing everything else but him.
Yes.
And the moment that I just surrendered, he's like, yeah, none of that even mattered.
Yeah.
I love you. Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Grace.
Yeah. Grace.
Yes.
Grace.
And I don't want to say that my daughter's illness was to change me, but it did 100%.
Yeah.
God knew, I still wasn't the husband I needed to be. I wasn't the father that I needed to be. I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And, God knew that nothing else would turn my wicked ways except hit me 100% where I put my everything. And when we got Kennedy's diagnosis, man, I mean, I was a social drinker. I'd go out and I say I was a social drinker. I could go out and drink one with you, or I'd go out and drink a case with you, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But I wasn't at home. I wasn't, whenever I drank, I wasn't the man, the husband, or the father that I needed to be.
Yep.
And so on Kennedy's diagnosis, I said, God, I know you don't make deals. I'm not making a deal with you.
Right. Whenever
I drink, I know this is one thing I sin at every time. I'm not saying that drinking alcohol is a sin. Like, that's between you and God and what And I don't judge people for if they drink. Like, that's like I said, once again. But I knew what I did whenever I drink, and I knew it was a sin, not the alcohol. What I did when I had the alcohol in me.
Right.
And so I said, God, I know you don't make deals. I'm not making a deal with you. Whether you heal my daughter here on earth or you heal her in heaven with you, this is one thing I sin at. Every time I do, I'm never touching another drop of alcohol.
Yeah.
And man, I haven't. I thank the good Lord. March of 2015 was the last drop of alcohol that I've had. We're now in 2024, 9 years out of that. I feel better, and man, just giving it all to Him.
I love it.
To take care of, to nurture, to protect.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, man.
In 2002, Cara was pregnant with Jake, and I came home from work. I'd stopped at a bar. I'd went to a friend's house and got high, and I came home, and I walked through the door, and she's sitting in the kitchen. And I sat down, and I go, hey, what are you doing? And she looked me like dead in the eyes, and she said, I need you to be a husband and a father, or you can choose that life, but you have to decide tonight.
Wow. Wow.
What if I choose that?
Yeah.
Well, then go choose it and don't come back in this house.
Yeah.
Okay. I wish I could tell you that I chose correctly in the moment, but I left.
Yeah.
I walked out, and I walked out for 3 months. I was gone. I was living in a friend's garage. He had this old dingy couch and a TV inside the garage, and no air conditioning, no heat. It was just a garage. And I got drunk one night, went to bed, woke up the next morning. Well, woke up in the afternoon, and I just went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and thought, what are you doing? And I want to say that was my thought, but it wasn't my thought.
Yeah. God put it there.
God put it there.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't think she would answer.
At this time, though, you weren't a believer, or you were?
Wasn't a believer.
Still at this time. Okay.
Like now,
Yeah.
I think that. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
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 I didn't think she would answer the phone if I called her, and I called her, and you know, she answered, and I told her, I said, listen, I've made the wrong decision. I want to come home, and I want to be a husband and a dad. I don't want you to have to raise our child alone. And she said, we can meet, we can talk. And we met up, and her conditions were, you have to get counseling. We have to go to marriage counseling, and you have to take parenting classes. Those are her conditions. And if you can meet those things, then yes, you can come home.
Yeah.
But I need to see you enter those things. And I tell people this sometimes, and even like the guys at work were like, oh man, like you got to get rid of her, man. She controls you and all that. And it's okay for your spouse to call you out, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
And that's all that she was doing.
Yeah.
Because she knew that if I didn't get that help, it was going to be harder for me to overcome the things I was trying to overcome. And I'm telling you, man, I started making appointments that day. I was like, oh, how soon can you get me in? Like, I need to be in tomorrow. You know, I don't want to live in this garage no more.
Yeah, exactly.
And I started making calls that day, and that was, I mean, that was the longest we've ever spent apart.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, like, a lot of people are like, man, married 22 years, like, is there still a fire there? So it's still a kindle? Man, we are in love.
Yeah.
But it's because it's marriage designed by God,
Yes.
not designed by us.
At the forefront of it.
At the forefront of it.
Yeah.
And there's grace and there's mercy at the forefront of it. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Like
that's my best friend. Like that's who I love being with. I love being with my wife.
Yeah. I'm the same way. It's so, like, so many people are like, oh, you got to spend time with other people, and I do.
Yeah.
But when I'm with other people, I'm like, man, I can't wait to go home and tell her about today and ask her about her day and make jokes and, you know, and just, we have this thing where I'll say, I love you. And she'll go, what day is it? And I'll go, Wednesday. And she'll go, oh, I can't love you on Wednesdays. I'm sorry. You'll have to wait till tomorrow. You know, and that's been our thing for forever. And, you know, I love it. I mean, it's just, and I know that she loves me on Wednesday. I know she loves me on Tuesday, but it's just that little playful game that we have, exactly, you know, and it was yesterday. We were at the store, and I said, hey, I'm going to go, I don't know, look for bread or whatever. And I said, love you. And she goes, love you too. And I go, huh, all right. Must be my day.
Yeah.
You know?
Hit the jackpot.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, if you can find Christ, if you can believe that he's the Son of God, if you can believe that he lived a perfect life, and if you can believe that he died on the cross and rose 3 days later and ascended into heaven, if you can believe those things, man, your life changes.
Yes.
It changes. And it doesn't have to be an extravagant change.
No.
But man, it changes. Because I remember not being believers and the knockdown, drag out fights we would have.
Yes.
You're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Go your separate ways and don't talk to each other for 2 days, you know? And now, none of that stuff is important anymore.
Exactly.
My way is not important. Her ways, it's not important to her. It's, does this glorify God?
And turning to God makes you less selfish.
Absolutely.
And self-centered too.
Absolutely.
Because it takes, like, instead of you feeling like I've got the power, I can take care of this. This is me. This is all me. This is all mine. You know, when you realize that it is all God's and He's in control 100%,
Yep.
it takes the selfishness out of it and helps you to be a better father, a better husband, because, you know, it's no longer my power.
Yeah.
It's our power.
Yeah.
It's us.
Yeah. It's so funny because before, if you get married before you're saved, it's stressful. I mean, and marriage is stressful anyways. I'm not saying that, but it's just like there's this extra, I don't even know what to call it, but it's there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like you can't make the other person happy. That's how we felt for a long time. We couldn't make each other happy. And, you know, there was one time where I did all the laundry, put it all away, came home, and it's hung up wrong. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, do you know how long I worked on this? You know, kids' laundry, our laundry. I put it all away, folded it. You know what my chore is? What? It's laundry. Like, she's just like, you know what? I don't have to have the clothes hung up a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't have to have them, you know, however I want them. If you're willing to do that, and you're willing to serve me in that way, then have at it.
Yes.
And I love doing laundry.
Yeah.
You know, like that's my thing. And she's just like, yeah, go for it. Have at it. But man, 15 years ago, forget it. I didn't touch laundry for a long time. I was like, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. If I can't hang it up correctly, then,
right. I'm not doing it.
That was a big one. I bring up Brandon's podcast. He lost his wife to cancer. And he's like, I came home from the hospital and 2-3 weeks went by and I started noticing stuff that she done that wasn't getting done, that I never noticed prior to. Laundry, dishes, house being clean, girls' hair appointments being made, lunches being packed for school, you know, and like he said, I'm not putting women into that bubble that they need to take care of the house and stuff of that nature, but that was just what she did.
Right.
And he's like, man, acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like, acknowledge the little things throughout the day that your spouse is doing, husband or wife, or even your kids. Like, if they're helping around the house, like, because I think of it on my aspect. If I'm doing something, let's just take your laundry.
Let's take it.
Let's take that into action there. If I'm doing laundry and I'm working, like, this is how I'm going to help around the house, and I do the laundry and I hang up the clothes, but yet you complain that I hung up the clothes wrong, that's going to make me not exactly what it done to you, make you not want to do laundry.
Yep.
And even if I do hang them up correctly and all's good and you don't complain about it, I may continue doing it. But when you acknowledge it and say thank you for doing that, even the smallest little thing, like, that is going to get, just like telling these kids, or even when somebody tells me today, I'm proud of you.
Yep.
That gives me so much more fire
to
want to do it more.
Yeah.
And man, that's like, I can't say that enough.
And switch it to your kids now, right? Like, what are the things that they do that we're not saying thank you for?
Yeah, exactly.
And I like, gratitude it's one of the best family traditions you can have, right? It's not a tradition, but
exactly.
I mean, it's one of the greatest things that you can do as a family is be grateful for what they're doing and grateful for one another. I mean, you know, when my kids are apart, you know, if they spend time apart, we all recognize it. Like, and my two daughters, they're, what's the name of it? They're not twins, but they're 11 months apart. They have a name for it, but they act like twins.
Yeah.
And when they don't spend time together, like, it's almost like there's this emptiness in our lives, and because they're grateful for each other, they love one another and they encourage one another. And, for the most part, they're kids, you know, but
they're siblings.
They're siblings. Yeah. But that's the thing that we're looking at is, when your kids do something for another sibling or another kid, celebrate that.
Yes. Like,
rejoice in that. Tell them, hey, I'm proud of you. Thank you for doing that. You know what? I noticed that I dropped a wrapper on the floor 3 hours ago and I didn't feel like bending down to pick it up, but you got it. Like, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That simple motion of you going down on the floor helped me out so much more than you could ever imagine. You know, I mean, thanks for letting the dog out. It's so simple. But we get so caught up in our day-to-days and we're busy and we don't notice those things. And man, I'm telling you, if your life's so much better if you just approach it with gratitude and thankfulness. Yeah.
That'll help out.
And speak it.
Yes.
You know, don't just hold it to yourself. Be like, I really do like when they say that, or when they do that chore. I appreciate that. Tell them.
Yeah. Overly communicate it.
Tell them. Yeah. Overly communicate.
Yes.
It's so funny because I've worked in prevention for years, right? Like, don't do drugs. Vapes are bad. Nicotine is bad. Here's what it does to the brain. Here's what THC does to the brain. Let me tell you about what I was like when I was your, like, I do this to my kids all the time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I walk through the door and I'm like, hey, can I tell you something? They're like, no. We are preventioned out. Like, just stop. We're not doing drugs. Okay. Like, it drives them, but I'd rather over communicate it than not communicate it at all, and then see them fall into this trap of what they've inherited from me.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, you can't over communicate love.
Oh no, not enough.
You can't do it.
No.
If it was possible, what Jesus did on the cross wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
If you could over communicate love, I mean, that's the ultimate gift of love.
Yes.
It cannot be over communicated.
I agree.
It's
100%. I agree with that. That's the first podcast that I had on here was with Willie Gallagher and Neil Crass, and it was over the train accident. And you know, one of the things that I asked Willie on there was like, you know, whenever my wife and I leave each other, or we're getting off the phone, or, you know, whenever we're disconnecting, however that may be, even through text message, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the last thing that we tell. And I asked Willie, I was like, you know, was you able to tell Jada before she passed away?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, because when he got to the hospital, she had already passed, and he wasn't able to talk to her, and she wasn't in a state of mind. And, you know, he said yes before she left the house. We had it every time we departed from each other. We hugged and we told each other we loved it. And man, like you said, you can't overly communicate. I think back in my profession of being a firefighter and an EMT, that how many car wrecks, how many house fires that I've ran that people passed away, and their significant others, their family members are like, I just wanted to tell them I love them.
Yeah.
Like, I did not tell them I love them.
Yeah.
And they regret that so much.
Yeah. My dad fell the other day, and they live here now. They used to live in Phoenix, and after my dad retired, they moved here, and we've never really had my family around, you know, and so we weren't really sure like what that was gonna look like. 'Cause I come from the generation of when you're 18, it's time for you to move on.
Yeah.
You know, and I did that. And so we weren't really sure like how that was gonna look and how the kids would adapt to it, you know, because now it's a little bit different. Now you got grandma and grandpa here, and they might have expectations and requirements, you know, and so my dad called the other day, and he said, hey, I need some help pressure washing the house, and could one of the kids come help? And so my daughter went and helped him, and he fell. He went out to check on her, and he tripped on the cement in the driveway, and he just went down. You know, he's at that age now where you just don't catch yourself.
Yeah.
And he went down, and my mom called me, and she said, the ambulance is here, and your dad's going to the hospital, and they're a little bit worried about his brain, and he hit his face pretty hard on the cement, and she said, do you want to talk to him? And I said, yeah, I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. And so she put him on the phone, and, you know, and he's trying to make jokes, you know, and because that's who he is. He tries to make light of everything. He's always done that. But I just interrupted him. I said, Dad. And he goes, what? And I said, I love you. And he goes, well, I love you too, you know? And we've never really had that, you know? But I wanted to communicate that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I remember being a kid and like my mom coming into my room one night and she said, hey, she woke me and my brother up and brought us in the living room and said, like, I need to tell you, like, your dad's plane has gone off radar. Like, they don't know where it is. That we don't know anything right now.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think about that moment and just the stress and the worry and did I say I love him before you left? Like, but it wasn't something that we did, you know? And so my kids, I've got a daughter that she'll come in and she'll go, I love you. And I go, love you too. And she'll go, love you. And I go, love you too. And she'll go, love you. And it's that, and then she'll go, oh, guess what? And I'll go, what? And she'll go, I love you. You know, and we've built that culture in our home, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, I can't, after everything we've been through, I can't. And when I walk away from a school and I have that opportunity to tell kids that I love them, I'm going to take it.
It's
gonna
powerful.
take it. Yeah.
That's so, and I can't stress that enough, man, that they're just not told enough. And you witness it, you see it every single day with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it means so much. Like I get so much outreach from people sending messages like, man, thank you. I've never been told that I love you. I've never been told I'm proud. I've never heard those words from my dad, you know, and man, that just, you know, like I said, that keeps the fire going to the true meaning of what God's put on this podcast is just that, showing love, showing that you care, showing that people that you're proud of them, and you know that they don't have to do anything. It's not my grace.
Nope.
It's God's grace that's pouring through me. Yes, the words are coming out of our mouths.
Yep.
But it's not us, man.
Nope.
It's not us. There is a higher, greater power than you can ever imagine. Love, not just the higher, greater power, but a greater love that is there that I can't stress that enough. And
I'll add to that. If you don't feel loved, I promise you, if you just spend some time with God, spend some time with some other believers, you're going to feel loved.
Yeah.
And
it's what you said earlier, power through community.
Power through community.
Yes.
You're going to feel loved.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I say this to my kids, and I say it to kids in schools and to whoever wants to hear it. But if you're looking for the negative, you'll always find it.
Yes. Yeah.
What are you looking for? Like that's one of the things I love that. Like what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Are you looking for it to be wrong?
Yeah.
Are you looking for it to be messed up? Because you're comfortable in that?
Yeah.
Because love's uncomfortable.
It is.
Like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done this, but a couple of months ago, I was kind of going through a difficult time, and so I would go in the bathroom, and I look myself in the mirror, and I would tell myself that I love myself, and I'd go, I love you, Nathan. That's so awkward.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
You just want to shake your
And
head. Like, hold on, what
you don't even want to look yourself in the eye, you know, or the eyes. You're just like, I love you, Nathan. You know, like, and it's an uncomfortable feeling, but God's designed us to love Him, to love our families, and to love ourselves. And I say that because, you know, our body's a temple, right?
Yeah.
We have to take care of it. We have to love it. We have to take care of ourselves. And taking care of yourself is loving yourself, giving yourself grace. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to make mistakes. Give yourself some grace and move forward.
Yes.
Everybody does it. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody messes up. Everybody has you can strike out 100 times and it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. You know, you don't have to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And I as a dad, that's so hard. I don't know if you go through that, but as a dad,
I do.
I'm tough on myself. I'm like, man, you did that wrong. You messed that up. You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
You got daughters. You never should have said that. You know, like the minute it's just emotions. You know, and And I'm so hard on myself, but there's things that I do right and there's things that I do well. And I know that. I know that because every night, every single one of our kids comes into our room to say, I love you. It doesn't matter what time of night it is.
Yeah.
If our oldest is out working late, whatever it is, she comes home, she'll wake us up. I'm home. I love you.
Yeah. Wow.
We've done something right.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, as hard as we want to be on ourselves as dads, you got to give yourself some grace, man.
And that's the hardest thing. And I'm sure that you go through it as well. Like, I think all the time, like how I failed as a dad because my daughter has her disease.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You know, like not just my daughter, both of my kids have their disease, like of what they have to go through.
Yeah.
And then I have to remember that it's 100% all for the glory of Him, not for me or not, you know, they are going through this for a reason. We are going through it together for a reason. And that's one of the hardest things that I've dealt with as a dad. I mean, I mess up all the time. I make wrong decisions. I raise my voice when I shouldn't. All the above. I fail every day, but like you said, learn from it and move on and correct it, you know?
Did you grieve the diagnosis?
That's a good question.
I grieved Jake's diagnosis because when Cara was pregnant with Jake, I was so excited. We're going to do football. We're going to do basketball. We're going to do baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm feeling a little froggy. We might even do soccer, right? Like, I was so excited.
Yeah.
And he's born and he has no interest in any of those things. And I'm thinking, well, you know, he's young. He's all right. That's fine. The Wiggles can take precedent for now, but soon it's going to be football and basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
And he never became interested in those things. And at that young of an age, and, you know, there's no little league. There was no, I don't even know like little football is, what it's called, but there was none of that, you know, nothing. And I remember grieving, like not just for that, but just the diagnosis in general, like going through the grieving process.
Yes.
And it was healthy. Like, it was a healthy grieving, and grieving process it's a healthy process.
It is. Yeah.
But I will tell you that he never played sports, never did. But man, that kid, this young adult, 21 years old, if there's anything you want to know about sports, go ask him.
Wow.
Go ask him. He will tell you. He'll tell you what the rankings are right now. He's a little worried about Tennessee, number 11. He'll tell you stats on players. I mean, he knows it.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, you got to be careful what you ask for, what you wish for, what you pray for.
Yeah.
Because I wished for it because I wasn't a prayer at the time. So I was wishing for it. And there's days where I'm just like, bro, like you got to go over there. Like, I can't handle another stat. I don't want to hear about the Vols right now.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go over there. But I'm thankful for it. And I just had that question, like, you know, did you grieve? Because I did the same thing with Ariana. I did the same thing with Summer. Like, I grieved those diagnoses because what I expected, what I thought our lives are going to be like, it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm saying that to say, like, it's okay to grieve. You know, if life isn't turning out the way that it's not, that it's supposed to, that you think it's supposed to, grieve.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, go through the grieving process and deal with those emotions and then, you know, move forward.
I think I'm going to say I did, but probably in a different way. I was that type of dad, that type of man that 2 weeks prior to my daughter being born, I'm YouTubing how to change a diaper. So I really didn't have my dad all through mine and my brother's childhood. He coached our teams and was that coach that was screaming, that was yelling, that was, you know, having the fire in him, you know, and like borderline wanting to just knock us out whenever we didn't do something correctly. And, you know, that's kind of huge too. I'm not trying to go off on a rabbit hole, but my dad never told me he was proud of me.
Yeah.
My dad, you know, it was always if I hit a home run, if I hit a double, scored 20-something points in a ball game, 2 touchdowns, you missed that pass.
Yep.
You threw that ball wrong.
Yep.
He never wanted to acknowledge the good things. And until I got later on in life and I'd qualified for a mini tour on golf to be able to go into a tournament, that I asked him to be my caddy on that day. And the first tee shot that I hit was right down the middle. And as we're walking towards that, he goes, "I'm proud of you."
Wow.
And that was the first time I can remember. I was 26, 27 years old probably at that time. That was the first time I can remember my dad ever telling me he is proud of me. My dad was always that hard worker, that provider, the pusher. You know, my grandfather is like my rock, man. Like he is.
Yeah.
My dad's great. Like I'm not taking anything away from him, but he was going providing. Yeah. And my grandfather was retired and he lived right next door. And so I would even call in sick to school to go be with Granny and Papa all day.
Yeah.
And he was the complete opposite, man. Showed grace, showed compassion, patience. Like, you know, he's a big woodworker, had a big woodworking shop. Yeah. And, you know, that was his hobby after he retired. And, you know, being 5-6 years old, I want to work in the woodworking shop with Papa. That's what I want to do. I want to go out in the garden and do stuff. And man, I remember he'd like give me a board and put 100 nails in it. Like, here, just hammer those nails, practice hammer, you know, just something to keep me busy. Yeah. Like I was being a part of it. And I think there's even, when him and my dad were remodeling my old house that I lived in, they were talking about there was one little section of a floor joist that was there that probably had 200 nails in it, because that's what they gave me to do, was just hammer nails in that one little joist to keep me busy. But man, like just tell your kids that you're proud of them and show them that grace and show them that patience. Like it's so huge.
The first hug that I got from my dad, I think I was 17. That was the first time he hugged me. It was just a side hug.
Wow.
Like it wasn't even like a real,
not
that it wasn't a real hug, but it wasn't like a real embrace.
And I have to say, all that being said that I just said, and I'm sure you're the same way, I knew my dad loved me.
Oh, I know for sure my dad loved me. And for a long time, you know, he traveled all the time, and I was so mad at him because he was gone for most of my life.
Yeah.
He had a real cool job in the Air Force, and he was just gone. And, you know, he retired. When he retired, I was 16 when he retired. And then that was just it was different, you know. And I remember telling him one time, I'm like, "You're not even my dad. Like, you're just some guy that traveled. Now you're here, you know, and don't discipline me. Like, I've been running my life the way I'm supposed to run my life, you know. Who do you think you are? You know, like I remember going off on him, and he's such a patient man. He's very, very patient, patient with me through all of my mistakes and all of my, and I realize now, like, man, he had the grace of God. Yeah. Like he really did. Yeah. And he just offered grace, a lot, discipline too, you know, but, he just wasn't an emotional, like, expressing that love and physically, you know, loving like that. Yeah. It was, he worked his tail off for his family. Yeah. So that we would have what we needed. Yes. You know, and I remember telling my mom when I started playing basketball in 6th grade, I said, I want Jordans. And she said, "Son, we can't afford Jordans." Yeah. And man, when she told my dad I wanted Jordans, and you know, and she said, she goes, "I know, Bill. I told him we can't afford Jordans." That was all my dad needed to hear. He went and worked. And when basketball season started, I had Jordans. Wow. And you know, it was a military pay. Yeah. You know, and so what I know now is that he wasn't just working in the Air Force. He was going to do side jobs to make extra money
Yep.
so that we could have the things that we wanted and needed.
Yes.
And I know that, and my dad, nature and nurture, right? I don't know. I don't really know any of my grandparents. I don't know them. I knew my mom's dad for a little bit, but wasn't like a grandfather or grandson relationship.
Yeah.
But my dad learned to work really hard and show his love through that. And because he was physically abused as a kid.
Okay.
And he didn't want to be physical in any way.
Yeah.
He just didn't want it. And that's changed. I see him hug on his grandkids all the time, and
Grandkids are changing. What?
Yeah. But I realize as an adult that my dad learned how to be a dad from his dad. I learned how to be a dad from my dad. You learned how to be a dad from your dad.
Yes.
Whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Whatever that situation looks like, that's how we learn. But I'm incredibly thankful for the way that my dad was, because my mom's dad was a very hard worker.
Yeah.
Came to America, worked in migrant fields, worked very hard and worked his way up, and became very well known in his community and stuff like that. And he was a hard worker. Yeah. And everybody, if you even today, if you go to the town that he was from and say his name, they go, "Oh yeah, man, he was such a hard worker." Yeah. They know him by that. Man, my dad, I'm telling you, he'll work circles around anybody. That's why he fell the other day, because he don't want to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's
man,
the way my grandfather is. He's 93. Yeah. I was building the kids a play set the other day, and he's up there trying to handle 6x6s with me, and I'm like, "Papa, I'll just
give me the ladder." Yeah. Yeah.
He was mad at me because I wouldn't let him walk on the floor joist.
Well, I get it because he still wants to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And my dad said this to me the other day. I took him to the doctor because he still couldn't drive. He had fell, and so he's walking down his steps off of his porch, and I'm standing there, just standing there like I'm ready. Yeah. I'm not ready, but I'm ready. And he stopped and he goes, "You seriously don't think I can walk down the stairs?" And I was like, "That's not what I think, Dad. That's not my thought. I'm just here to catch you, like in the same way that you were there for me to catch me. Yeah. However I needed, you know." And he's just grumpy the whole way to the doctor's office, And we get there and we go inside. I pull in the parking lot and I park, and he gets out and I get out, and he looks at me and goes, "You're going in too?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm not going to sit in the car. Yeah, I'm going to go in, and I want to hear what the doctor tells you."
Exactly. So you can't lie to me.
That's right. So you can't lie to me, And it's this weird transition now.
Yes. Yeah.
Where you like, and I told my wife, it's so hard. I told my wife, I said, this transition, these are the words I said. I said, this transition could not have started to happen at a worse time, because I'm trying to build this business, and I'm out of town, and I can't be there. I can't go provide for us and then be here and take care of them. Yeah. Because my mom has her own stuff going on, and this is where, like, I'm telling you, a godly marriage, she said, "I got it. Wow. I will take care of them." Wow. And I told her, I said, "It's not your responsibility." Here I go, right? It's not your responsibility. They're my parents. Yeah. And my wife, her parents were never really parents. Yeah. She went through what a lot of these kids are going through today. And I think that's why she had the ability to sit me down and say, "You got to choose." Yeah. But she said, "Your parents have been more parents to me than my parents have ever been." Wow. And I will go take care of our parents. Wow. And I went, "Well, that sounds weird, but okay."
Yes. But then you're thanking God for that,
yes.
That she is that way. And
yes,
unfortunately, her unfortunate situation
Yeah.
you know, what she's had to go through, but how powerful is that she's,
Yeah.
you know, and that's huge, man. On a note that I just had whenever you said that is not only, you know, like, yes, go do your thing as a spouse. I'm just talking as a spouse, like,
Right.
go do your thing.
Yep.
Go provide, or I'll be here. You go do what you need to do. She's not doing that. And that's huge as a spouse to be like, no matter what, I'm going to support you.
Yep.
I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to encourage you. You go off and do your thing. I've got the home front.
Yep.
You know, if we're on the road together, I'm going to remind you to go talk to that student before we leave. Like, the support of a spouse and what you're trying to accomplish is huge.
Huge.
Like,
huge. Have you ever had a crazy idea and Allie's like, yeah, just go with it.
oh, this,
Like,
well,
try to figure it out.
no, I thought you were going to go the other way with it. I was going She's usually like, no, we're not doing that at all. And then my stubbornness, no, we're doing it. We're going to do it. Then it fails. And then she's like, I told you so. And, you know.
Yeah. Cara has, I'm going to tell you, Cara has been my greatest supporter. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, even if it's the weirdest idea.
Yeah.
You know, I've never built anything in my life. You hand me a hammer, I'm going to use it wrong.
Yeah.
All right. But she's the one it's my dad calls her the son he always wanted. But she's very talented and she can do all kinds of things, but I don't build anything. But when I didn't have a job, I had this crazy idea that if people bought a playground that needed to be put together, I was going to put it together.
Yeah.
I don't have any tools. I don't know how to put anything together. You know, I'm just not good. I won't say I'm not good at it. I just never learned how to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, all right, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. You know, it's like 3 weeks and she's the one doing it, you know, and I'm like the assistant and I'm like, this is not what I imagined this being, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I asked her one, I was like, do you like doing this? She's like, I hate it. And I'm like, okay, God, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like,
switching up ideas. Here we go.
Yeah. Cause basically I'm just going back to childhood and holding the flashlight, you know? but anything. And even with this idea of I'm going to go speak all over the country and maybe even in Canada, whatever. It's what I feel like God's calling me to do.
Yeah.
Then, and she's been like, yeah, let's run with it. Let's see what happens. And, you know, and she does not believe in the word fail.
Yeah.
She don't believe in it. She believes that everything is educational.
Wow.
You learn from it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as failure in her eyes.
Huh.
And that's how I know that God designed her for me.
Yeah.
Because as many times as I think that I fail, she's always there to go, what'd you learn?
Yeah.
Like, what'd you learn in that experience?
Yes.
Like, what are the top 3 lessons, or what's the number 1 lesson you learned in that? And it gets me out of that mindset of, man, I failed her, I failed the kids. And I'll tell her that, like, I failed you in that moment. She's like, no, you learn from it. Like, if you feel like you're telling me that you failed in that moment, there's something that you learned from it. So what is it?
Yeah, exactly.
And she always gets me out of that mindset. And as a husband, I need that. As kids, my kids need her to be that wife to me.
Yeah.
You know?
They need to see that.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I know that she was designed for me.
Yes.
That God knew that I was going to need someone who didn't see failure.
Yeah.
But saw that, like, hey, this is educational. This is a learning opportunity. And sometimes it drives me crazy. You know, I'm like, no, it failed. And she's like, nope. Talk to me in 6 months, you know, and we'll be sitting down one day and I'll go, you know what I learned from that? And she go, oh, here it is. Oh. Here it is.
Don't tell me I was
kids,
right. Don't
kids,
tell me.
come in. Your dad has an announcement.
Now tell him I was right.
Yeah.
And then you tell me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So it's been, I don't know, man, 22 years and it's been super cool
That's awesome.
to look back at it, to what
Yeah.
it was, to what it is now.
Yes.
I mean, to where we can make our kids just be like, gross. Like, it's so fun, you know, like I'll give her a kiss in the kitchen and my 16-year-old would just be like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
you know, and I'm like, oh, we'll do that again.
Yeah.
You know,
But but they need to see that.
they need to see it.
Kids need to see you being
Yep.
affectionate, you're supportive,
Yep.
loving, caring, because if they don't, then all they're going to look for is that abusive relationship,
Right.
or, you know, finding another out.
Yep.
Yeah, they need to see that in the home.
They need to see it. I will say that sons and daughters.
Yes, yeah.
My son needs to see me being affectionate with
Yeah.
my wife, and my daughters need to see that too.
Yes.
And on top of other things, they need to see the forgiveness. They need to see the grace. They need to see all of that.
Yeah.
The appreciation.
Yes.
Because you are raising, the way that you're raising your kids is what they will look for when they become adults.
Yes, exactly.
If it's abusive, they're going to look for abuse.
Yes.
Because that is what they're in tune to. It's what they're used to, and that's what they're going to look for. If it's loving, if it's caring, if it's unconditional, they're going to look for that. And man, I'm telling you, I none of my daughters right now have boyfriends, but I'm telling you,
Thank the good Lord.
There's some high expectations, not on my part,
Yeah.
on their part.
Well, it is your part. It's what you've instilled in them throughout their lives, that, you know, that you showed them.
Yeah.
Don't settle.
Yeah.
This is what you need to be treated like. This is what you deserve to be treated like.
Yeah.
Not just some dirtbag that's, you know, going
Right.
to abuse you and use you and, you know,
Yeah.
talk to you like you're trash. Like,
Yep.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's awesome.
Still open the car door for my wife.
Yeah.
You know, so they think it's weird. And I'm like, why do you do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a sign of respect.
Exactly.
I open the door. I'm the last one to walk through the door for the whole family.
Yeah.
I do have one daughter who just refuses right now. She's like, you're going in before me. And I'm like, no, like
She's not stubborn at all, is she?
no, it's not like her dad at all. Yeah. But it's those things. And, you know, and then I see them reciprocate that in friendships and just the way they treat random people, you know, how you interact with your kids and engage with them, man, it matters.
That was like last night, and this was very, very small and minor detail, but through our extravaganza of having to walk from the Justin Timberlake concert back to the Strip to get an Uber ride back to our vehicle, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother podcast. But it was raining on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And we're walking up the sidewalk, and Allie was on the she started, we just got to this street, and she started on the roadside. And I said, no, you move to the opposite side. I'll be near the cars. That way, if one comes, it hits me, or, you know, if it hits a big puddle of water, it drenches me, doesn't drench you. Like, you know, that's those small details that as a gentleman, as a man, probably happens more in the South than it does anywhere else, probably. I have to say. But that's huge. Like, and I know my kids weren't present to be able to see that, but need to see that stuff.
But they've seen it before.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they've seen it before. Yeah. And those are, they notice. Kids pick up everything.
Yes, they do.
Everything.
Yep.
You know,
good and bad.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good and bad. I mean, we haven't been Christians our whole marriage, you know,
No,
and so
exactly.
there were moments where our kids said things in front of other people and we're like, oh man, you know, that I don't know where they got that at.
Dang music, I tell you what.
Yeah, it's kids, they just notice, man, and I don't know. I'm super. I've said it a bunch, but I'm just super blessed.
Yes,
you know that that God showed me a way to not think about myself, but to put them first, to put Him first and them first, and everything that I'm doing. You know, and that's
huge.
The moment that one of my kids would say, "Dad, get off the road," I'd get off the road.
Yeah.
If they came to me and said, "Hey, this is how it's making me feel. I need you."
Yeah.
I'm done.
I got you.
I'll find something else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go work at Walmart and greet people or something.
Yeah.
But if they need me, I'm gonna be there.
Well, and they, I completely understand 100%
Yeah.
what you said, and that's not to go off another tangent, but
Yeah.
I've tried to start those businesses. I've tried to do those ideas to make more money I'm not doing it for the glory of me. I'm doing it to make more money so that my family has more.
Yeah.
But when I've been out there doing it, it almost makes me want to cry because I'm like, I'm doing this for the right reasons, but it's taken away from the reason.
Right.
And, like your kids recognize, yes, you're on the road, you're doing, but you're doing God's work. You're doing what you're called to do.
Yeah.
And they completely understand that. And, I 100%, I think if they said, no, Dad, I need you here, like you would be there in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And even if it's, I need you to cancel that gig and I need you now, I would cancel it. And I think the neat thing though is like I can take that out of the equation because if they do feel like that, I do have the ability to go, why don't you just come with me?
Yeah.
Why don't you come with me?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's hang out. We'll spend a couple extra days where we're going.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and let's just spend some. Yeah, we're gonna do some work. We're gonna work together. You're gonna help me set up, and you might have to videotape some stuff, take some pictures. But after that, we're gonna have us time.
Yeah.
And I'm in a position where I can do that. But
that's so awesome.
But I don't know, man. I ended up with some of the best kids that I could ever, despite the diagnoses.
Yes.
Diagnoses. I don't know.
I'll go with it, whichever way.
Whatever it is. They've thrived and they've overcome so many things. And I'm just, I don't know. I can't tell them I'm proud of them enough.
Yeah.
I went and did a thing last night with a school and I took Ariana with me, my 18-year-old. High functioning autism, very reserved, very quiet, not outgoing, but she went and worked this table with me. And I will tell you that every time a little one came up to the table, she got down on their level, interacted with them, asked them questions, talked with them, used the words that I use, talked my lingo, and they would leave and she'd stand back up and I would just watch. And we got in the car and to come home and I said, hey, I'm really proud of you. And she was like, oh, thanks, Dad. Like it, for her, it's uncomfortable for her.
Yeah.
And I told her why, you're very reserved, you're very quiet, you're very shy. Interactions just aren't your thing.
Yeah.
I said, but man, those little kids, like the only reason that they kept coming up to the table was because you kept getting on their level.
Yes.
And like that.
Well, the message meant so much more coming from her than it ever would have from you.
Right. Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, we were driving home and I just kept talking about it, oh, this happened. I heard you say this to that kid and that was awesome. And we got home and she walked in the house and my wife, she goes, how'd tonight go? And Ariana went, I mean, Dad's proud of me, so it must have went pretty well. And I thought, that's what I want. I don't want her to walk through that door and go, don't even ask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember those moments as a teenager, coming home and my mom being like, how was football practice? Don't even ask, because Dad came home and decided to come pick me up so Mom wouldn't have to, and he drove me home, and then he gave me this big lecture on the way home, and then I'm just like, oh man, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm done,
Those times that you were like didn't want to go home because you didn't want to have to tell what happened.
Yeah.
Or how bad the practice was.
Right.
Or from my aspect, it was more on like my rounds of golf. You went on score. Like, I didn't want to have to go home and say, oh,
yeah,
I shot 10 over today.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Yeah. And just to have her come home and just be like, Dad's proud of me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool feeling.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
That's that's
It's
powerful words, man.
Yeah.
They're so simple, so powerful.
So simple and so powerful.
Well, let's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. We have tore it up today.
If you got 5 minutes,
Yeah.
in a coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
with somebody that, a brand new husband,
Mm-hmm.
him and his wife are struggling through just life,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily anything in general, and they've got some young kids,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of young kids, and he's like, man, I just feel like I'm failing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it, every day's a struggle, and nothing, it's just life. There's no medical diagnosis involved. There's nothing, like no extramarital stuff going on or anything like that. Like he's just like, I'm struggling. Like, what would you have? What kind of advice would you have for that?
Yeah. When's the last time you were intentional about serving them individually? Complimenting them, loving them, taking care of them. Those things create joy in both parties. And if you feel like you're failing at being a dad and being a husband, there's only one way to reverse that.
Yeah.
It's to provide joy and love to your family.
Wow.
And so if that's how you're feeling, I've got to ask that question.
Yeah.
When's the last time that you took that little one on a one-on-one and you were intentional with it? You didn't take him to the park and put him on the swing and get on your phone and scroll through it.
Yeah.
You pushed him on that swing. You sat on the swing next to him and you swung. You showed him what you did when you were a kid on a swing. Like, when's the last time you did that? When's the last time you sat down with your wife and you listed the things about her that you were thankful for?
Wow.
When's the last time that you told her? Like you wrote it all down and then you said, here's my top 100 and there's more where this comes from. Like, when's the last time you did that?
Yeah.
And so that she understood that you recognized, that you see it, that you love her, that you appreciate her. That's going to create so much joy in her. And when you see them joyful, you're joyful.
Yes.
And then you don't feel like a failure anymore because you're not, and you never were. You don't realize how much those kids love you. You don't realize how much your wife loves you, especially in those moments of, I'm failing, I'm not doing enough, I messed that up, and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
And man, those kids, they think you are the top of the world.
Yeah.
Your wife, she defends you behind closed doors. They love you. The only way to fail them is to walk out on them.
Yeah.
That's the only way. You can reverse it. Like one-on-ones, provide joy, and just love them.
Be present.
Be present. Be intentional about everything that you do as a husband and a father. You won't feel like a failure. I don't have it all together. I don't.
Yeah.
But I know in the moments where I'm like, this isn't working out for me. I don't like the way I feel today. If I go to one of my kids and I'm like, hey, you want to go grab a hamburger and then go see a movie and then maybe go to the mall? Yeah, let's go. And then there's my time to be very intentional with them.
Yeah.
Changes everything. Anytime that you provide joy and love to others, it's not just them that receives it. You get a piece of that.
Wow. Yeah.
And you start to feel better. And I tell this in schools all the time. If you want to reduce violence in your school, you give compliments when you're walking down the hallway. Instead of, I don't like the way you look, I love your hair.
Yeah.
I love your glasses. I love that shirt. I love your shoes. I love the way you smile. I love the way you make me laugh. I love the way that you talk. Like, you do that if you do it in your families,
Yeah.
you won't be a failure. You won't ever feel like a failure.
Yeah. That's so powerful, man.
Because they'll come to you when they feel that way.
Yeah.
That's how you know
Wow.
you
Yeah,
haven't
that's huge.
failed. The moment they come to you and they're like, I don't feel so good. Can you make me laugh? Yep.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I have to do.
Exactly. Show
You know,
love.
show love.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of it.
Wow.
You,
That's awesome.
You will not, you're not a failure at all.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of
I
you,
really-
man.
I
I'm proud of
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah.
That's so great what you're doing and making a difference in
Well, it's great what you're doing. I mean, the Dad Show, and I mean, you want to change the world? Get to the dads.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We hear all the time, we need more dads to be dads.
Yes, yeah.
You know, you want to change the world, get to the dads, and that's what you're doing. I'm proud of you too, man.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you're
It means
welcome.
a lot.
Thank
it really
you.
does.
Yeah.
If our viewers want to go and connect deeper with you and get in touch with you and follow you and, you know, hear your stories and your social media content and all that, is there a certain place that they can go?
Yep. They can go to nathanrayspeaks.com. It's WRAY. And you can go to that Nathan Ray on TikTok and Instagram, and that's where I am. And it'll be nice to have someone other than a middle schooler follow me. So that'd be cool. But
I follow him. I do. Yeah. He's got some great content. He really does.
But again, if you just need somebody, you need another dad to talk to, different perspective, I'll make time for it. I believe that, I forget where I heard this, but you'll either find time, make time, or run out of time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
And I live by that as a dad and a husband.
Yeah.
I'm either going to find time, make time, or I'm going to run out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to run out of it.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's so good. So guys, go follow Nathan. If you can't find Nathan, get in touch with me. I promise you, I'll put you in touch with him. As you've heard today, he's got some great wisdom, great little nuggets, and just a great mentor, man. So
It's God's wisdom.
amen.
It's his.
Heck yeah, it is.
I wish I was this smart.
Me too. Me too. Guys, I hope y'all have a blessed day. As always, we love you, we thank you, and we're proud of you. Thank
Love
you so
you.
much.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.